The discourse is getting absurd, and I hope Arrowhead can avoid giving in because the arguments have officially stopped making any sense. I just watched a video by ThiccFilA called They Just Can't Stop Lying and have been checking out the discourse generally about the new warbond. I think we've reached a low point in the community, honestly, and at this point, we're not even talking about nerfs, nor whether the game should be more milsim or more horde shooting or realistic or not. So let's just go ahead and respond to this, okay? I'm going to respond point by point, just to be very, very clear on my top thoughts on this situation. So first of all, I don't even understand this. Forget the nerfs thing. I don't get how we're not talking about whether the game should be more milsim or more horde shooting or realistic or not, because the video right here, They Can't Stop Lying, was explicitly about how they choose to use realism or movie realism or believability. Now, to be very clear, the first part of this video talking about the minigun having a spin up, which is unrealistic, and then not being able to move with the minigun, which is realistic. Those are two inconsistent things when it comes to choosing realism or not. Now, the point I said about lying mainly was directed at Sham's comment about denying the Coyote nerf, even though his developers admitted to it a month ago. Okay, so to just be very clear, this was mainly what the lying was pointed at. The other stuff was more so inconsistencies. And also when Pilestat said in a podcast that they sort of tricked players into playing a more hardcore game. And I even said in the video, I'm not trying to take that in bad faith. I don't think their intention was to literally trick players. However, I do see a trend that whenever they make more so milsim decisions or realistic or hardcore, it tends to benefit, or it tends to be at the detriment of the player in when they make those choices, it seems like. So I don't know how the video wasn't about this. Okay, agonizing and over Shams and Piles every Discord message and Reddit comment from literally a year ago. Well, here's the thing. Pilestat doesn't comment in Discord every day. They first started talking about the minigun a year ago, and those were pretty much all the messages we ever got on the minigun. I would imagine they've been working on the minigun the past year, and also, any of their comments about believability and verisimilitude, sorry, that word is a little bit hard to pronounce. How, if the message is from a year ago, how is it any less relevant today? So, and then also the Shams message that I pointed out was from like 2 days ago. So how is, because the last time we heard about the minigun and what went into the developer side of creating the minigun was from a year ago, and I'm assuming they've been working on it since then, and all of those ideas from a year ago are in the final product now. So I just think it's relevant. You know, maybe talking about messages from a year ago is like irrelevant to you, but personally, I think it's relevant. Now, I have to particularly ask people like Thick, seriously, does any video game warrant this level of scrutiny? Now, first of all, that's like a personal thing. I feel like this is like a bit of tone policing. What I will say is if you have ever watched YouTubers for other video games absolutely get this level of scrutiny. Path of Exile 2, there was literally a video 2 months ago of someone calling all the content creators tourists, and they're scrutinizing the game too hard. Dead by Daylight, if you go watch some of Scott Junn's videos, I'm sure there are other examples. I can't think of more off the top of my head. This is just stuff I saw recently even. I don't think we pay this much attention into what our local politicians are up to and what they said a year ago, and they decide things that actually impact our lives. Again, this is like, bro, go on Twitter. People go on Facebook, like people literally do. What is going on? We just got a minigun and a chainsword. In the case of the minigun, I already said it got a realistic and an unrealistic like points into the design, and both of these things are at the detriment of a player. And also, just for the spin-up time, I don't think half a second spin-up time is going to be a big deal, but I have seen a discourse around how spin-up times on miniguns is an unrealistic feature that video games popularized. And I actually think it's a missed opportunity for this game and these developers who love to tout realism. So this is a real criticism as a fan. I'm not saying it's going to be the biggest downside in the world. I actually, like, when I posted my Far Far West video and that game has a minigun, I literally got a comment that said, oh my god, this minigun doesn't have a spool up time. That's so cool. In Far Far West, it actually does have a spool up time, but you can pre-crank it to get rid of the spool up time, which is also pretty cool. People enjoy these levels of details that actually build upon the realism and believability, and I think giving this minigun any spool up time was actually a point against it. Like, this is actually a legit piece of criticism. When it comes to the chainsword, okay, first of all, I would say like 80% of my criticism on this thing would be gone if it was a primary weapon instead of a support weapon. I don't think any melee weapon, at least in this game, until they make like a gravity hammer that has like a 7-meter AoE, until we get a gravity hammer, like any melee weapon they give us is not worth a support slot. So that's where like 80% of my criticism sits. And then the rest of it is the fact that it starts at AP3. They said that you can grind into the enemies. It's going to start at AP3 and go up to AP4. Why do I have to wait a second? Okay, I feel like I just can sense, because I play this game, that this is going to be a downside. I'm going to go to chainsaw a charger, and it's going to do its stomp attack, and then I'm going to have to dodge, and then I'm going to go to chainsaw it again, then it's going to hip check me. It's just going to be, I think with just a pure AP4 chainsword, unless it like fully staggers lock it, which it may very well could, unless it fully stagger locks it, I think it's going to be hard to kill a charger even with a fully AP4 chainsword. So again, it's just a little wrinkle that they added to the weapon that I feel is going to take away from some of the enjoyment. Could I be wrong? Absolutely. In fact, I hope I will be wrong. However, based on previous Reddit posts and previous stratagems added into the game, here was a post defending the Super Earth flag doing nothing. I'm just saying nearly 7K wanted you this a year ago. Blah, blah, blah. You guys aren't grateful. They gave you exactly what you asked for. Well, maybe read the fine print, because I don't think they gave us exactly what we asked for. Stop criticizing the multi-billion-dollar company. This is what I hear, like genuinely, because if you look at the top comment of this Reddit thread, referencing a Reddit thread from a year ago, the top comment of the Reddit thread a year ago with 1,700 upvotes was, if it was made into a stratagem, it should boost the morale, and stats like movement speed, armor, reload speed, etc. of nearby Helldivers allow you to carry it on your back or plant it into the ground. And the original poster said, I love this idea. So yes, people did ask for a flag added into the game a year ago, and a bunch of people also threw out the idea of a morale boost. Yes, people did ask for a minigun and a chainsword, but did I ask for a chainsword that starts at AP3 then goes up to AP4? No. And guess what? When the warbond comes out, I'm going to play it. I'm going to try to chainsword every enemy in the game. And then guess what? If it's not that good, a week later, I'm just going to stop playing it. That is where the criticism truly lies, is I want these items and these weapons to actually have the player's quality of life in mind, so that I don't stop playing this weapon a week later. And, you know, some of you might try to say, like, other people will enjoy it. Okay, well then how come if I go to the pick rates on the recent patch, out of 745 loadouts, let's just do all difficulty, 2,800 loadouts, how come the Super Earth flag is on the very bottom? It's 0.2%. 0.2% out of a sample size of nearly 3,000 loadouts. Everybody who was defending the Super Earth flag doing nothing, none of you played with it. Is the chainsword going to be the same? Is the minigun going to be the same? I don't know. People will probably play the minigun. I think the chainsword will be the same. I'm just saying, if it were a primary weapon, then I could bring a real support weapon, a primary chainsword to have fun, and then I could bring like a Talon to deal with the enemies that get close to me. Okay, so we have gotten to the point where a gun having any amount of personality is becoming a problem. Personally, I think that some of the downsides I've pointed out are not the only personality of these weapons. A chainsword is completely unique in being able, and from the other melee weapons, because it's going to be able to grind into enemies. That's what the dev said. They said you're going to grind into enemies. It's going to start as AP3 and go up to AP4. The AP3 to AP4 is not the personality of the weapon. The being able to grind into enemies is the badass part that differentiates it from the other melee weapons. The minigun in some games allow you to move, in other games it just doesn't. In DRG, it does not, with Lead Storm Overclock. Brother, this is the most disingenuous point in this whole post, because if you didn't know, DRG is a game where you have a bunch of different options. You can customization for your weapon. Like, for example, in Tier 1, you can pick between cooling rate, fire rate, or base spread. In Tier 4, the DRG minigun, you can cut the spin-up time in half. And with an overclock, I'm pretty sure that, yeah, there's an overclock that even cuts that spin-up time down even more. The one specific overclock he's talking about is Lead Storm. It gives it a big damage boost, but it doesn't allow you to move with it anymore. Well, first of all, that's one overclock, okay? Out of, like, what, 8 or 9? If you want to be able to move with your minigun in DRG, you absolutely can. Second of all, last time I checked, DRG has zip lines that people bounce between while they are using this overclock. There's actually a way to literally play around the lack of movement speed when it comes to this overclock. So this is just a completely disingenuous example. I played Gunner in DRG, and never once in 300 hours of playing the game did I stop and think, shit, I really should be able to move faster, or shit, the spin-up time is taking too long. Okay, that's like a personal preference thing. The enemies in DRG also don't two-shot you like the warriors in this game. So personally, I think that being stood still in Helldivers is a way bigger deal than being stood still in DRG. I just accepted that this is how the minigun in DRG is and played the game. I mean, this is just not true, because you literally have options in DRG to remove your spin up. That's not how the minigun is. That's how you decided to customize your minigun. We have reached a point where the minutia of the game's content is being debated for no reason. There is controversy about whether the coyote sets things on fire in 1 or 2 bullets more or not. Okay. So there is no controversy. Some people are complaining about the coyote setting things on fire in 1 or 2 bullets. Here is my video. Stealth nerfs, dressed as buff, some positive, Helldivers 2. Here is my video where I was the one who exposed the direct coyote nerf. And here's what I said about it. Coyote. So what does this mean? Is this a meaningful change? No, it's not. It's really not. Like, instead of 1 bullet per warrior, you now spend 2. I know that's double and that sounds like a lot, but realistically, like, you need to put a couple bullets into warriors with like, I always shot warriors a couple times with a coyote anyway. All right, I'm just going to stop it right there. So this is the problem that I have with Reddit posts like these, is if you're going to criticize me, at least criticize me for what I'm saying. I quite literally said in my video that taking an extra bullet is not a big deal. What I have a problem with is the way the developer is talking to me. The developer says, we didn't touch the coyote, but we touched everything surrounding the coyote. This is deceptive. This is leading me to believe that when I log into the patch, my coyote is going to work exactly the same. Well, guess what? When I logged into the patch, it didn't. And this is just deceptive. And same with my other criticisms. My criticism with the minigun, when it comes to realism, is we have devs who tout realism. Me personally, I hope it's like, I do like the aesthetics of some of the realism. If you watch Moa's YouTube channel, he shows a lot of the like reload animations, like how when you reload the bushwhacker, it takes the 3 bullets off the side of the gun. I think that stuff is really cool. I like the aesthetic, but it's just that we always see, and I'm not the first person to say this, we always see that the realistic option is chosen when it doesn't benefit the player. And then when it's unrealistic for a minigun to have spin up, and that's a played out video game mechanic, for some reason, the Helldivers devs chose that as well. So I care more so about the consistency in what they are saying and just holding them at their word. Like, that's all I expect. At the bare minimum, like, I'm just going to hold you at your word. Or whether a 4-foot chainsword should be a primary. Guys, if you put that thing on a Helldiver's hip where primaries go, it would either drag on the ground or have to be balanced backwards like a samurai blade or some shit. There's no physical space for it to be in the primary position of the character. Bro, I don't even know what to say about that. I just think that's ridiculous. What is going on at this point? What are people arguing about? This is getting absurd. This is not normal. I think we have reached a point where community feedback needs to be ignored and the devs just say, guys, this is how it's going to be in the game, and that's the end of it. Well, what I think is really funny is when I spent 10 hours on stream doing balance feedback and tons of people were agreeing, and then they actually ended up putting my balance feedback into the game with the 60-day plan. And when before that, when they're nerfing things and they're doing realism when it doesn't benefit us, or selective realism, as we've been talking about selective realism for over a year. The player lows before the 60-day plan was 5K players. So it seems like, I don't know. I mean, I think my feedback is pretty valid. I don't think I'm right about everything. But personally, I think I would have at least like an 80% hit rate on how things worked. And ultimately, what it comes down to is I think this Reddit post is tone policing. But here's the thing about my tone. I made a video a year ago that I never knew that this would become a series on my channel. Why nerfs keep happening every new update in patch Helldivers 2? The devs must be stopped. This was my first video, the devs must be stopped. I recently put out a part 3 a month ago. I never knew this would be a video series. The reason why I made this video the first time was because they removed the shrapnel from the eruptor, and I felt that their balancing and their nerf philosophy, it ultimately got to a point that they wanted to nerf something so bad that they completely removed the identity of a weapon. So I actually felt the devs needed to be stopped. Well, here was my tone in this video a year ago. We're just going to cut a minute in past the intro, and let's just listen to how my tone of voice was. So before we go ahead and read over the dev's message for the eruptor and then talk about what the eruptor is now compared to what it was, I really want to talk about the balance in Helldivers 2. The balance is actually not that bad. I can take weird loadouts into squads, I can take a couple different optimized loadouts into solo, and I can win Hell. You hear that, guys? The balance, it's not that bad. Okay, this was my tone a year ago. How do you think it's gotten to the point that my tone has changed so dramatically from the past year and a ton of people resonate with my content? Do you think that just came out of nowhere? Do you think like we just got here for no reason? Or do you think it's possible that there was a consistent piece of feedback? Stop adding mechanics that make the game feel worse to play. Stop ruining the quality of life. Don't be selective with the realism you choose when it only doesn't benefit me. The certain qualities that the devs have in their head for what makes their game fun, for what makes the guns fun to use, is just not on par with the majority of people playing the game. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having the same conversations a year later. One of the biggest compliments for this game that I saw on launch and consistently is that Helldivers plays like cutscenes in other games look like. And the developers, this was unintended from their part. I have seen a comment before from the devs where they said, I'm paraphrasing, I saw a comment from the devs where they said that people always say our game is cinematic, but our game has no cinematography. Well, that is them saying like, you know, it's crazy we get this compliment all the time because we don't even know where it comes from. Our game has no cinematics. So why is our game such cinema? But what the devs kind of aimed to make was a more milsim playing horde shooter. But that is not what made your game popular. What made your game popular was absolute democracy, cinema. This game plays like a cutscene, and that's what I want to see more of. So some people might be saying like, oh, Thick just only criticizes, just move on from the game. It's not for you. It was never for you. No, that's the thing. This game used to be for me. Like, for example, when the Pummeler first came out, the Pummeler was a gun where its whole entire niche was being able to stun things very, very quickly. It had very little damage. I fell in love with this gun almost immediately. I started using it for its niche because I could just stun things and stay very safe and keep things at a certain distance. And then I would just swap to my secondary, the Senator, or I would swap to like an autocannon and finish the enemy off. So I used to have a playstyle where I found a niche for a weapon that was very powerful, but now somehow a year later, the Pummeler does not stun things well, but it does way more damage than it used to. It got over a 20 damage buff since launch, and it has actual durable damage now. It got over 100% more durable damage from launch. But at the same time, it has all this drag and all this sway. And it's like the reason I liked the pummeler, personally, I felt at the time that this gun fits exactly into the devs' vision of the meta for Helldivers. It's literally not an overpowered power fantasy gun, which is what the devs don't want for the game. It is a niche gun that has a cool niche mechanic on it that works really well. I would think that the devs exactly want that in that game, but to my surprise, a year later, the pummeler works like almost the opposite of how it used to on launch, and they changed it. So that is my issue, is that the feedback I'm getting from the devs doesn't line up with their actions, and the reasons I used to love this game and the reasons why this game used to be exactly for me, they keep patching it out of the game. So there is a level of confusion that I have with the devs' vision, because, like, tell me if I'm wrong, bro. Tell me if the pummeler's niche of used to being very good at stunning but doing low damage, tell me how that doesn't fit into the devs' vision of not being a power fantasy and finding a cool mechanic for a weapon and using it to my benefit. Like, I think I have a right to be confused in that situation. And, like, I also just see that on new weapons coming out. Now, ultimately, this warbond's not out yet, okay? So people haven't tried these weapons yet. How do you know that the chainsword is not going to be clunky? How do you know that the minigun being stationary is going to work exactly how you think it does? How do you know that they're going to code it well and it's all going to play well and it's not going to need quality of life updates? Personally, from the mechanics I've heard of how this stuff works, I foresee some sort of issues with it. Now, I could absolutely be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'll be happy to be wrong. And guess what? I'll just make a video playing with the gun, and I'll just say it's really good and cool, and I recommend you to play with it. Currently, we have teasers, we have a trailer, we have the devs leaving messages. All I can do right now is give my feedback on it. So with that being said, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'll see you guys next time.